We might think, well, eating is a very simple thing. What is such a great, like, why does it have to be a quality among this, the qualities of a devotee? Like, and that too, like one of the 26 prominent qualities of a devotee. There are so many other qualities that can be developed, like that need to be developed as part of our spiritual journey, like humility, tolerance, and this and that. And of course, those qualities are also there. We've been studying all those qualities for so many weeks now. Those qualities are there, but then one might wonder why, eating uh, as much as is required is one of the qualities. So Suman Mataji is saying I'm already disqualified. I am actually most disqualified actually. I totally understand where you're coming from, and those who know me in this group, they would know that I'm a very voracious eater. I eat a lot. I'm a foodie by nature. So, but yeah, so in the process of learning, the process of trying to understand this quality and trying to understand the whole concept of, eating in moderation as a devotee, it's been a very enlightening experience, and for me personally, and definitely something that I will take with me. So before moving on, let me just, so I have, we'll be reading from the, why does it say okay. We'll be reading from the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the verses that we are going to read today. And but before we get into the verses, so we'll read the verses and then do the prayers. I just wanted to highlight something that I heard in a class recently about the 26 qualities of devotees. So this was a recent class by Radhanath Maharaj, and he was talking about the pastime of how Jai Vijay get cursed by the four Kumaras, right at at the door of Vaikuntha. And this chapter, this comes in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the context is that Jay Vijay have misjudged the four Kumaras to be ordinary children, and they stopped them from going into Vaikuntha. And then the whole exchange happens where the four Kumaras, they are great sages. They just look like kids, but actually they are great sages. So then they are angry. They get angry and then they curse the four Kumaras. I mean, they curse Jay and Vijay. They curse them to, go down to the material world and yeah, spend whatever X number of lives over there, which eventually turns out to be three lives. So that story is there. And then after the curse happens, Lord Vishnu, he sort of understands that there is some problem happening at the door of Vaikuntha. So let me go and check what's going on. So he goes there and then he sees that he understands that all this has happened. And then there he says something, he says a series of verses, and he obviously sides with do you know who he sides with in that whole exchange?
Kumaras.
Kumaras. So he sides with the four Kumaras in that whole exchange, and he says that yes, the curse that you have given to these two servants of mine is no problem. They, they made a mistake. They should not have judged you like this, and things like that. And then he says something really, really important. He says that the my if my servants make any mistake, that is actually not their mistake, that is my mistake. So the misbehavior that has been shown to you by my servants is actually my own misbehavior, the Lord is saying in
Mm.
those series of verses. So the Lord is taking complete responsibility, like a true leader. He's taking complete responsibility for the whatever happened, the behavior of Jay and Vijay. And in one of those purports, where, in one of the verses where the Lord is saying that, this is my mistake. It is something that I have to rectify. So there, Prabhupada writes that he emphasizes the importance of being responsible in our devotional service. He emphasizes the importance of being gentle devotees in our Krishna consciousness, in striving to become like that, striving to become gentlemen and ladies. And not because we will get name, fame, and adoration because of that, but because the reason being that if we willingly or unwillingly make mistake and offend others, Krishna is taking responsibility for that, just like he took responsibility for Jay and Vijay. If we as devotees make any mistakes, we offend, especially when we offend others, other devotees or other people, but mainly devotees, when we offend them, when we try to pull them away from Krishna, or we try to criticize them, or we try to pull them down, then Krishna actually bears that brunt of that responsibility. And that's what happens. And then that is why Prabhupada writes. So, this is what I wanted to read out here. So Prabhupada writes, a Vaishnava therefore should be fully qualified. As stated in the Bhagavatam, anyone who has become a Vaishnava has developed all the good qualities of the demigods. And then this is very important, the next line that he writes. There are 26 qualifications mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. A devotee should always see that his Vaishnava qualities increase with the advancement of his Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is directly referring to these 26 qualities which we have been studying those, so many weeks. And Prabhupada is saying that, we should see in our Krishna consciousness that as and how we progress, we make advancement, that these qualities are increasing in us. It's not like we are striving, we are practicing Krishna consciousness to develop these good qualities. But anyway, why are we practicing Krishna consciousness anyway? If I had to ask you, what would you say? Why are we practicing bhakti? Why are we spending so much time on a Tuesday evening after a long day at work, sitting and listening to Jagannath Gopal Das? Why are
Bec-
we
bec-
practicing?
Because we are dissatisfied with the way, uh, we are dissatisfied with life, and we don't know how to find satisfaction or how to find happiness.
Hmm.
And maybe that's one of the reasons that I can think of.
Yes, we are trying to find happiness. We are trying to find happiness. We are trying to, um, we are fed up with the world. Um, Let me read something in the comments. We know and are experiencing satisfaction in Krishna Katha and evolving our life. Yes. There is one aim, though. There is one aim of the whole Krishna conscious practice. A very simple thing, and something that Prabhupada mentions often, and something that we should not lose track of also in our spiritual life. Ultimately, happiness, yes, but that happiness that we are looking for, actually, it comes out of love predominantly. When we experience love, whether it be in this world or anywhere, whether it be from our relatives or friends or anyone, when we experience love, we experience that happiness. And so that's why the ultimate aim of spiritual practice. And this is like, I had done a survey to understand from different devotees, what do they feel is the one ultimate aim of practicing Krishna consciousness, that they have sort of inferred after reading Prabhupada's books. And everybody gave different answers, but some of them gave like the actual answer, which Garuda Prabhu, a scholar, has proven that that is what Prabhupada came to give also, and that is love of God. So ultimately, we are practicing Krishna consciousness to develop our love for God. Everything else is there. Liberation comes as a byproduct of that. You know, Cessation of material miseries comes as a byproduct of that. Happiness also comes as a byproduct of that. But ultimately, love of God is what we are trying to achieve with all our spiritual practice. But then in our spiritual journey, how do we understand whether we are making progress or not? That is why Prabhupada writes here that a devotee should see that his Vaishnava qualities and the 26 qualities should increase with the advancement of our Krishna consciousness. So again, it's not here, Prabhupada is not even saying that. If you carefully read the wording Prabhupada has used, he's not even saying that we should have these good qualities in order to practice bhakti. But then Prabhupada is saying that by practicing bhakti sincerely, these qualities will develop. And then that should be our barometer, that These qualities, are they naturally developing? Am I feeling humble? Am I, and if not, then yes, I need to tweak, or I need to recalibrate my efforts in Krishna consciousness. Anyway, that is something in general I wanted to mention. Any thoughts or any questions on this? Okay.
No,
Anyway,
quick thought, Prabhuji.
yeah.
So this is the effect. The Vaishnava qualities are the effect, and the cause is the sadhana. Is it?
Cause is sincere sadhana, yes.
God.
I mean, in one sense, I mean, it depends on what you mean by cause. The ultimate cause of any progress in Krishna consciousness is Krishna's grace. But then, in order to attract that Krishna's grace, we have to show sincerity. So, yes, like,
Okay.
call. Yeah. So, that sincerity is something in our hands. And then the development of these qualities will come by Krishna's grace. Of course, some of these qualities, like what are the qualities that we have seen till now? Like, okay, one of the qualities is to be kind, right? The first quality. So, yes, we might have to put, as part of that sincere effort in Krishna consciousness, we might have to put effort to be kind, right? But then when it starts coming naturally to us, that is Krishna's grace. That's the way I understand. Yes, Lekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I was just wondering, so does this mean that the is the sincerity the same as, okay, I desire love of Godhead, and that thought is the seed for everything else that happens? Because we obviously also have in our lives experiences where we see constant progress, everything is great, then suddenly life just gets backo, and then we go back. We
Yeah,
again climb next 5 steps in the ladder, we go back.
correct.
So is the sincerity just that desire in our heart, and that's all that is mostly needed, and then everything else happens automatically? Is that
Yeah, I
the?
mean, yes, desire, and then we have to act toward that desire. It's not just like we have that desire, yeah, I
Mm,
want love of
mm,
God, but there is a process
mm.
given by the devotees, by the
Yeah,
Shastra, that is
correct.
revealed to us by our association that we go with, the faith that is given to us. So, yes, but that desire, that is the ultimate desire that, ideally, I'm again here, when we say the topmost desire should be love for God, this in no
Mm,
way is demeaning or is belittling the desire for liberation, not at all.
mm,
That we
mm.
need to understand that, yes, as
Right.
part of our spiritual journey, we would want some peace, we would want some,
Mm,
I want these problems to go away, that kind of mentality would be there, and that is okay, that is natural, there is
mm,
nothing wrong in it. So
mm,
I want to emphasize that there is nothing wrong
mm,
in wanting liberation, in wanting peace, right?
mm.
But then we also need to understand that that is not the ultimate thing. Yes, we get peace, but then what do we do with that peace, right? So
Mm,
it's a very
mm,
deeper
mm,
motivation that, okay, after a busy day of work on a Tuesday, I will sit
mm,
and discuss about the 26 qualities of a devotee from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? But am I doing that just for my own entertainment after a busy day
mm,
of work?
mm,
Uh,
mm.
it could be someone's motivation, but and that is perfectly okay. But
Mm,
then the higher than that is that, yes, I'm doing this to receive love of God someday, and then sure,
mm.
as a byproduct of that, I get to sit peacefully. I get to discuss
Right,
Bhagavatam.
right,
So I will
right,
accept that. I will accept that peace also. But then I will
right,
utilize that peace in love for
right,
Krishna in whatever way I
right.
can. So it's a lofty ideal. It's a lofty thing. So that is
Mm,
why, in many places, this has, in our Damodar Ashtakam, Varam Deva Moksham na Mokshvavadhim va.
mm,
So Satyavrat Muni is praying, I don't want moksha, I don't want this. Nacha anyam vrineham vareshadapiha. I don't want any benedictions or anything. All I want is your Bal Gopal form to be manifest within me.
mm,
So he is
mm,
also praying for, he doesn't pray for liberation. He's praying
mm,
for, but and as again, as part of that Krishna consciousness, love of God, Krishna will give us liberation, uh,
mm,
but at its highest stage, that is
mm.
not what a pure devotee at least desires.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
like
Mm.
that. But anyway,
And
so then,
mm.
sorry, go ahead, Mataji, you were saying.
Oh no, no, I was just no problem. Please finish it up.
Yeah. So, but and in our journey towards developing love for Krishna, we have to see whether these Vaishnava qualities are increasing or whether, I'm becoming more and more agitated. If I'm becoming more and more agitated, then
Mm.
we have to recalibrate. The process
Right.
is not wrong, but our
Yeah.
approach to the process might be wrong.
Yes. Yes.
So anyway, so that was quite a long background. But anyway, moving on.
Mhm.
So that coming
Thank
back to
you.
our topic today, right, which is a Vaishnava does not eat more than required, right? So this is a nice topic. And as I said, we might think, why even mention this as one of the 26 qualities when there are so many other spiritual qualities to develop? Why even mention that, Vaishnava does not eat more than required? Mitabhuk. This is what the Sanskrit is, mitabhuk. Why is it even mentioned as one of the qualities, right? But we'll see why it is important also, hopefully, in the course of our discussion today. So, when it comes to eating, there are so many, apparently contradictory instructions. If you go to NOI, Nectar of Instruction, Soham Prabhu here, we did Bhakti Shastri together. So the first verse itself is Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jivha Vegam, Udarupastha Vegam. So six Vega or six urges are described there. And then the first verse of Nectar of Instruction says that one who conquers these six urges or controls these six urges, such a dhira or such a sober person is entitled to make disciples all over the world. Rupa Goswami is writing, right? And then Prabhupada there gives many strong statements about what does Jivha Vegam, what does controlling the Jivha or controlling the tongue means. So we'll get to that also anyway. And then, so you have these instructions where Prabhupada is saying that you should control your eat moderately and everything. On the other hand, you see Lord Chaitanya, he would serve prasadam to his devotees, and then he would tell them to eat up to the neck.
Oh,
So he would tell them eat up to the neck. So both those things are there. And then, of course, in the book that Satswarup Maharaj wrote, the 26 qualities. I read about this quality. So there he writes that this is like a minor quality. This is not like a major or important quality. This is a minor quality, but uh, if it is there, it is minor in one sense compared to the other qualities. But if it is not there, then that is a major flaw in a devotee. That is considered as a major flaw in a devotee, is what he writes, right? That is his understanding of it. So, in that sense. Anyway, thinking of major minor qualities, I just wanted to mention this and sort of ask everyone among the 26 qualities that are there, which one do you think is the most important? And the clue is we have already covered that. And Soham Prabhu, I don't know if you remember this or not, but among these 26, which is the most important quality?
Something, bro. I don't remember it.
Acha. Anyway, I'll tell. So the most important quality as per Acharyas is among these. Let me see before I give away the answer, I'll see chat. Truthful, compassionate, no, no. Humility also no.
At this point, I'm going to list out all 26 qualities.
Okay, I'll give it away. It's always surrendered to Krishna. That is the most important quality. But anyway, that can itself be discussed a lot, but we'll not get into that today. Now, what is my next slide even? Yeah, still more background before we get into the verses. And this is again, Soham Prabhu would know this. This comes in Nectar of Instruction. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to do what? And this is related to our topic today.
Control sensors.
Yes.
eat less.
Yes, that comes in the sense
Okay.
control. Yeah. So in nectar of instruction, to fill in the blank. Okay. Yes. Um, in Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada writes, in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. And then he writes more. He says, unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, Sattva Guna, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. So, very nice. This was one of the questions in our Bhakti Shastri exam. In all spiritual affairs, what is one's first duty? That is why I put, and it's interesting also, one's first duty, Prabhupada writes, is to control his mind and senses. Anyway, so now we'll go to the verses, and this comes in the seventh canto. This is the 13th chapter, and here this is the description of a conversation between Prahlad Maharaj and an Avadhuta. So let's start. So we'll start with verse 12, 13. Okay. Okay, not even 12, 13. Yeah. Let's start with 10, and these are like we'll go up to 46 short verses. So 10 to 46 is 47, 37 verses. Let's do 10, 10, 10, and 7. Yeah. Anybody wants to go? Nupur, you can go ahead. You can read the first 10 from 10 to 20, 10 to 19. Yeah.
Okay. Although a saintly person may not expose himself to the vision of human society, by his behavior, his purpose is disclosed. To human society, he should present himself like a restless child. And although he is the greatest thoughtful orator, he should present himself like a dumb man. As a historical example of this, learned sages recite the story of an ancient discussion between Prahlad Maharaj and a great saintly person who was feeding himself like a python. Prahlad Maharaj, the most dear servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, once went out touring the universe with some of his confidential associates just to study the nature of saintly persons. Thus, he arrived at the bank of Kaveri, where there was a mountain known as Sahaya. There, he found a great saintly person who was lying on the ground, covered with dirt and dust, but who was deeply spiritually advanced. Neither by that saintly person's activities, by his bodily features, by his words, nor by the symptoms of his Varnashram status could people understand whether he was the same person they had known. The advanced devotee Prahlad Maharaj duly worshipped and offered obeisances to the saintly person who had adopted a python's means of livelihood. Although thus worshipping the saintly person, like after thus worshipping the saintly person and touching his own head to the saint's lotus feet, Prahlad Maharaj, in order to understand him, inquired very submissively as follows. Seeing the saintly person to be quite fat, Prahlad Maharaj said, my dear sir, you undergo no endeavor to earn your livelihood, but you have a stout body, exactly like that of a materialistic enjoyer. I know that if one is very rich and has nothing to do, he becomes extremely fat by eating and sleeping and performing no work. O Brahmana, fully in knowledge of transcendence, you have nothing to do, and therefore you are lying down. It is also understood that you have no money for sense enjoyment. How then has your body become so fat? Under the circumstances, if you do not consider my question impudent, kindly explain how this has happened. Your Honor appears learned, expert, and intelligent in every way. You can speak very well, saying things that are pleasing to the heart. You see that people in general are engaged in fruitive activities, yet you are lying here inactive. Haribol.
Yes, anyone wants to read? Okay, I'll go for the next 10 verses. Narad Muni continued, when the saintly person was thus questioned by Prahlad Maharaj, the king of Daityas, he was captivated by this shower of nectarian words, and he replied to the inquisitiveness of Prahlad Maharaj with a smiling face. The saintly Brahmana said, O best of the Asuras, Prahlad Maharaj, who are recognized by advanced and civilized men, you are aware of the different stages of life because of your inherent transcendental eyes. with which you can see a man's character and thus know clearly the results of acceptance and rejection of things as they are. Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of all opulences, is predominant within the core of your heart because of your being a pure devotee. He always drives away all the darkness of ignorance as the sun drives away the darkness of the universe. My king, my dear king, although you know everything, you have posed some questions which I shall try to answer according to what I have learned by hearing from authorities. I cannot remain silent in this regard, for a personality like you is just fit to be spoken to by one who desires self purification. Because of insatiable material desires, I was being carried away by the waves of material nature's laws, and thus I was engaging in different activities, struggling for existence in various forms of life. In the course of the evolutionary process, which is caused by fruitive activities due to undesirable material sense gratification, I have received this human form of life, which can lead to heavenly planets, to liberation, to lower species, or to rebirth among human beings. In this human form of life, men and women unite for sensual pleasure of sex, but by actual experience, we have observed that none of them are happy. Therefore, seeing the contrary results, I have stopped taking part in materialistic activities. The actual form of life for living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply an imagination. Therefore, considering this subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and am lying down here. In this way, the conditioned soul living within the body forgets his self interest because he identifies himself with the body. Because the body is material, his natural tendency is to be attracted by the varieties of material of the material world. Thus, the living entity suffers the miseries of material existence. Just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within a well covered by grass but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within himself but runs after happiness in the material world. Anybody wants to go next for the next 10 verses or
I can read Prabhu from 30, right?
30 to 39? Yes, bro.
The living entity tries to achieve happiness and rid himself of the causes of distress. But because the various bodies of the living entities are under the full control of material nature, all his plans in different bodies, one after another, are ultimately baffled. The materialistic activities are always mixed with three kinds of miserable conditions: Adhyatmika, Adidaivika, and Adibhautika. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of this success? One is still subjected to birth, death, old age, disease, and the reactions of his fruitive activities. The Brahmana continued, I am actually seeing how a rich man who is a victim of his senses is very greedy to accumulate wealth and therefore suffers from insomnia due to fear from all sides, despite his wealth and opulence. Those who are considered materially powerful and rich are always full of anxieties because of the governmental laws, thieves and rogues, enemies, family members, animals, birds, persons seeking charity, the inevitable time factor, and even their own selves. Thus, they are invariably afraid. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. From the bumblebee, I have learned to be unattached to accumulating money, for although money is as good as honey, anyone can kill its owners and take it away. I do not endeavor to get anything, but am satisfied with whatever is achieved in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am patient and unagitated like a python and lie down in this way for many days. Sometimes I eat a very small quantity and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasada is offered with great respect and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day and sometimes at night. Thus, I eat what is easily available. To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin, according to my destiny, and I am fully satisfied and unagitated.
Thank you, bro. Sometimes I lie on the surface of earth, sometimes on leaves, grass, or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes by the will of others in a palace on a first-class bed with pillows. Oh Lord, sometimes I bathe myself very nicely, smear sandalwood pulp all over my body, put on a flower garland, and dress in fine garments and ornaments. Then I travel like a king on the back of an elephant or on a chariot or horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked like a person haunted by a ghost. Different people are of different mentalities, therefore, it is not my business to either praise them or to blaspheme them. I only desire their welfare, hoping that they will agree to become one with the Super Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. The mental concoction of discrimination between good and bad should be accepted as one unit and then invested in the mind, which should then be invested in the false ego. The false ego should be invested in the total material energy. This is the process of fighting false discrimination. A learned, thoughtful person must realize that material existence is illusion. This is possible only by self realization. A self realized person who has actually seen the truth should retire from all material activities, being situated in self realization. Prahlad Maharaj, you are certainly a self realized soul and a devotee of the Supreme Lord. You do not care for public opinion or so called scriptures. For this reason, I have described to you without hesitation the history of my self realization. Narad Muni continued. After Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the demons, heard these instructions from the saint, he understood the occupational duties of a perfect person, Paramahamsa. Thus, he duly worshipped the saint, took his permission, and then left for his own home. ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम् Hare Krishna. So yeah, very heavy verses, but the one verse that I chose for this whole thing is where is that verse? Sometimes I eat a very small quantity and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasad is offered with great respect and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day and sometimes at night. Thus I eat what is easily available. And the reason I chose this personality is because the question that Prahlad Maharaj asks, which we found sort of funny, is he sees this renounced person and he asks him, you seem very renounced and you don't seem to be active at all, not endeavoring to get anything to eat, but still you're so fat, you're so stout. How is that? Dear Sadhu, is what Prahlad Maharaj asks this Paramahamsa devotee, and that's where all this comes. So anyway, that is what I wanted to say. And anyway, going ahead now here to now we start the main topic. Till now we did a lot of other things, but now we start our actual topic. But now in general, if I would have to ask you, why do we eat? Anyone?
For energy.
Energy, yes. Sustenance, yeah. What else?
Taste.
Taste, yes. Gratification, sense pleasure, yes. Anything else we eat for, especially as Indians, something that is very ingrained in us since childhood. Nourish the body, yes. Nourishment, sustenance, survival, pleasure, gratification, social
Uh,
connection. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yes.
I'm
Naman.
reminded of, typically I'm reminded of my childhood. There was another films division program that used to ask the question, हम जीने के लिए खाते हैं या खाने के लिए जीते हैं?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Prasad, to honor the Bhagwan's Bhoga.
Yeah.
Prasad.
So upliftment is what I was thinking of. So we like the why we eat prasadam, I put that in three broad categories. One is sustenance, as all of you mentioned, to nourish the body, to to just to fulfill our hunger and everything. Then just not just that, right? We don't just eat for sustenance, because if we would have eaten for sustenance strictly, then we would not have eaten different things every day. We would have just eaten the same thing. Probably milk. Prabhupada says milk is a complete food. We might have just had milk and throughout our lives and just sustained ourselves, right? But then, no, we also eat for gratification. We also eat for pleasure, right? And this is something I relate with a lot because I'm a foodie. Anyone who is a foodie here, they will relate with this a lot. Yeah, I get sugar craving sometimes suddenly. Then nowadays, I'm not taking sugar very strictly. So nowadays, when I get a sugar craving, I go and have some fruits, right? But then that is gratification. We eat for gratification also. And as Nupur mentioned, another very important thing, which may not be the case for a purely Western person, but in India, it is definitely a case for most people. We eat for upliftment. When we go to a temple, when we go to some place, we go there and then we have this intention that okay, by eating this prasadam, that prasadam may not be the what we might get in a Michelin star restaurant or something, or a five-star restaurant or something, but then still we eat that with a lot of respect and gratitude, because we understand that this is the prasad of the Lord and this will uplift me spiritually. So these are, why we eat in general. Now within eating, right, there are two sort of there is dichotomy, and these terms come in the various verses of the scriptures, mainly Bhagavad Gita and Nectar of Instruction. So the two terms are Ati Ahara and Yukta Ahara. You all must have heard these terms. So Ati Ahar comes in Nectar of Instruction, Atyahara Prayashascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha, Janasangascha Laulyamcha, Shadvir Bhakti Vinashyati. And then this Yuktahara comes in 617, Yuktahara Viharasya, Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu, Yukta Swapnava Bodhasya, Yogo Bhavati Dukkha. And then what that means is, so the Ati Ahar, this verse comes in Nectar of Instruction, second verse. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following six activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, that is Ati Prayas, and then there are four others. And then the next one is he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So this is Bhagavad Gita 6.17, right? So there is something called as Yukta Ahara and there is something called as Ati Ahara. And then typically we try to avoid Ati Ahara and we try to develop Yukta Ahara. Okay. Now here there is now if I had to ask you what are the criteria for Atihar and Yuktahar, how do you decide what is Atihar and what is Yuktahar? Anyone has any thoughts on that?
So the अति आहार प्रभु could be पेट तो भर गया है लेकिन मन नहीं भरा है, तो keep eating. Whereas अति आहार, I think if it's only to satisfy, that would nourish the body, you will eat only as much as needed.
Right.
Ahara is like sense gratification for the taste.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that you mentioned something really important. I'll bring that point up later. But yes. Any other thoughts on how do you differentiate between Ati Ahar and Yukta Ahar? Okay, I'll mention a nice pastime. So what happens is this is one of the memories of Prabhupada by Prabhupada disciples. So I think it was Nanda Kumar Prabhu. So he used to serve Prabhupada, and this was in some temple, I think in, yeah, I forget which temple. somewhere in the US. And then he was taking Prabhupada's plate, Prabhupada's prasad plate to offer to go and give to Prabhupada. Prabhupada had to honor prasad. So then he was taking the plate, and then on the way he heard this discussion going on that, how many chickpeas should we eat? So one devotee was saying we should only eat 7 chickpeas. Prabhupada said we should eat only 7 chickpeas. Another devotee said, no, actually in Los Angeles, Prabhupada told us that we should eat 11 chickpeas. And then another devotee said, no, no, no. I've heard that Prabhupada said that you should eat 21 chickpeas in a meal. That is okay. And then, so this debate was going on, and everybody was saying, Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that. So this Nanda Kumar Prabhu, he took the plate, went into Prabhupada's room, offered him the plate to honor the prasadam, and he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, there is a controversy going on. Devotees are speculating how many chickpeas to eat. Some are saying 11, some are saying 7, some are saying 21. So what is actually the what do you think, Prabhupada? He asks to Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, he tells something important. He says that don't believe anyone, don't believe anything in terms of such things, practical things, either unless you have heard it from me directly or if it is there in my books. This is the first thing he said. And then the second thing he said was, as far as chickpeas go, you can eat as many as you can digest. So a very simple answer Prabhupada gave. So now the whole tug of war between Ati Ahar and Yukta Ahar, it is different for different people. Now again, see, I've come across so many devotees in my life by Krishna's mercy. I've seen many devotees who like to eat. They are foodies like me, love to eat. You weekends you would find us in Govindas in Pune. It was like a given, we would eat. But then there were some other devotees who were naturally not so eager to eat. They were like naturally controlled in eating. So we couldn't relate with them in terms of the eating at least. So they were naturally like that. It's not that they would crave for tasty things, nothing like that. Whatever they used to get, they would just eat and be happy. So honestly, if we see eating as an activity, as a gross activity, that is not even an issue for everyone. That is an issue for maybe some, but that is not an issue for everyone, which is something we all might have experienced. So yeah, so the question actually between Ati Ahar and Yukta Ahar goes a little deeper also. It is not just about eating, actually, it is about accumulation also. So here Prabhupada writes, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. And then I've heard this a more generic interpretation where, accumulating anything that more than required, like accumulating books more than required. Like I had this habit, like you go anywhere in a temple, they are selling books, and then you see something interesting, take the book, keep it, don't read it for many, many years, right? That is actually atyahar, that is actually accumulating more than necessary. And of course, yeah, the books, for books especially, there is a spiritual value associated with it. Like they say, like for example, for me, the atyahar in terms of books that my father did many, many years ago, that became my gateway to come into bhakti. So he got a Bhagavad Gita when I was in fourth grade, when we were visiting ISKCON Juhu as part of a Mumbai sightseeing tour. And then there he got this Bhagavad Gita in English, and that Gita ate dust for many years. For 8 years, it ate dust. And then in my 12th grade, I took it up and I started reading it, and that totally changed my life. So, spiritual books is a different issue, but still, the principle holds that we just don't accumulate for the sake of accumulating, right? So that is, so this ahara is actually, it goes a little deeper also than the gross activity of eating. It also means accumulating anything, accumulating funds and everything. So now, does this mean that, oh, accumulating more funds than necessary, does that mean that we should give up savings? Should we not save money? That is not the purport here, but the understanding is that if that accumulation goes into a zone of greed, then that becomes an issue. Like if that becomes like the only thing and there is nothing else other than that is the all in all, then that becomes an issue. So savings per se are not the issue here. Anyway, any thoughts here before we carry on? Okay. So, but anyway, like so the understanding then is that atiyahar and yuktahar, it is an individual matter ultimately, right? And this is the pastime that we saw. And what is a meal for somebody is a snack for someone else. So that is just the way it is. We can't help that. And it is an individual matter, and what we can digest is different for different people. So for some people, like I know there is a devotee in Bhakti Center, a very scholarly devotee. Every time anybody goes to India, he or gets books through them. But he is like such a big scholar. He made his like he did things that triggered huge changes within ISKCON, huge changes. So he's a big scholar, and then for him that is not atyahar. For him, yeah, he reads Sanskrit the way we read English books or Hindi books or whatever, like the way we read novels. That's how he reads Sanskrit books, not the translations, the Sanskrit directly. So that he's a Sanskrit scholar. You might know him. His name is Pradyumna Prabhu. In many of Prabhupada lectures, he reads the translation and the Sanskrit. But anyway, so for a person like him, collecting books is not atyahar. But for a person like me, who is struggling for time, it's different. So anyway, so that is one thing. And then in this there is a nice pastime that happens, which one of again in that Prabhupada memories I saw. And there this devotee describes that Prabhu, they were in some place. I think it was not some devotee, also some well-wisher's house or something. They were staying there, and this person was hosting them. They were Krishna devotees, but then they had everybody in the altar. And then this disciple of Prabhupada went and asked Prabhupada, so they offer us this food. They say that it is prasad, but then if you see their altar, Krishna is not prominently, kept on a higher pedestal than the others. Like Krishna is just one of the gods they have in their altar, in their devghar or whatever, like the place, the room where they keep all their deities. So there are so many other images and deities. So Krishna is there, but it's not like they are giving a prominent position to Krishna. So is this really prasad? Do we even eat this? Should we eat this? And there Prabhupada said something interesting. He said that actually anything you get to eat is the mercy of Krishna, he says. But he says, don't preach that to newcomers. And then this devotee asked, why shouldn't we preach that to newcomers? Then Prabhupada said that because if you preach this to newcomers, that everything you get is a mercy of Krishna, then they will eat for sense enjoyment and justify that by saying that it is the mercy of Krishna. So that way, Prabhupada, and then this devotee describes how an Uttamadhikari, like an Uttamadhikari, there are three levels of devotees that are described in the scriptures. One is the Kanishta Adhikari, the lowest level, a very, very newcomer, neophyte, what we call. And there are specific descriptions of like the characteristics of each category of devotees. So there is the neophyte, the Kanishta Adhikari, then there is the Madhyama Adhikari. The Madhyam Adhikari is slightly higher, and they sort of discriminate between what is good for bhakti and what is bad for bhakti, what kind of association helps them, what kind of association does not help them. They discriminate. And then all with the aim of developing love for Krishna. We are all in one sense Madhyam Adhikaris, depending on our internal state of consciousness. And then above than that, the highest level is Uttam Adhikari. The Uttam Adhikari actually sees Krishna everywhere. They are pure devotees of Krishna. They are always in remembrance of Krishna. They see Krishna in all of us. Also, like anybody, they see the most materialistic person as as a great devotee, because they are not seeing the external. They are seeing the spirit soul. And then Jivere Swarupo hai Krishna Nityadas. So they are seeing on that level that spirit soul is ultimately a devotee of Krishna. So then this is an Uttamadhikari. They don't see anything other than Krishna around them. So yes, for an Uttamadhikari, anything they get is the mercy of Krishna. But Prabhupada, in order to preach to newcomers, in order to preach to the hippies and the Westerners, preach again now in Uttamadhikari level, preaching is not possible because an Adhikari really cannot preach. The reason being that he's so much in Krishna consciousness that he sees everybody as devotee of Krishna. Now, if you see everybody as devotee of Krishna, why is there a need to preach? So an Uttamadhikari actually cannot preach or give instruction. So then an Uttamadhikari has to come down to the level of Madhyamadhikari in order to uplift others, in order to he has to make that discrimination although that person may be Uttama internally. So that is Prabhupada. In this example, we see that yes, everything you get is a mercy of Krishna. That is then Uttama Adhikari consciousness. But then we cannot preach that to newcomers, or even for us, for example, we cannot follow that. We can't go to the restaurant tomorrow and say that, this is prasad. No, that is for us, prasad is when we will offer it to the Lord and eat it. That is prasad. Yes, we can think that it is the mercy of Krishna. Everything is a mercy of Krishna, but for us, it is more like theory. We are not really relishing that. We are not really, it may not come with a very strong degree of faith. And um, ultimately, the distinction between Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta is based on the level of faith. There are many characteristics, but the main characteristic, the root characteristic, which differentiates whether we are Kanishta, Madhyama, or Uttama, is faith. So that is the Uttama Adhikari's faith, that everything is the mercy of Krishna, but on a Madhyama level we can't, or on a Kanishta level we can't apply that directly without realization. So anyway, that was something. I kept rambling on for a long time. Any other? Oh, okay. Any other thoughts here before we carry on?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am.
It is just what you mentioned about this pastime with Prabhupada is like so mind-boggling on like so many different dimensions. One is his like as an acharya, how he's able to like relate, although he's at such an elevated state, he's able to like relate to everybody at different stages. And also like while we hear about a lot of stories across organizations where the acharyas like the gurus like they encourage like worshipping them and stuff, which has happened for thousands and thousands of years, and it's happening even today. But Prabhupada is teaching intelligence, like perception, through observation, along with like teaching Krishna Bhakti at the same time, where these are perceivable at different states. And all of this is just like extremely mind baffling for me. I just, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, Prabhupada was very practical.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Any questions anyone has so far? Okay, no.
Actually, Prabhu, if no one has questions, I have a question if I can ask.
Please, yeah.
Sorry. So, this is regarding like eating at restaurants, Prabhu. Like, how do we? What is our take on this? I mean, obviously, it's not the most preferable, but due to like sense pleasure as well as like whatever life's busyness of life it is, and given that the places that most of us reside has a lot of options that's like vegetarian friendly, how do we I just wanted to hear your thoughts on like how what's like a Casey perspective, for the lack of better word, regarding like eating outside.
Yeah. We'll come to that question, Mataji. My next slide is related to that. Not directly related to eating in restaurants, but it's regarding how do we really apply this Yukta Ahara principle, or how do we apply this Jiva Vega principle. We'll get to that. We'll come back to that because that is a very practical question that many devotees have. Even I have wondered about it so many times. I eat in restaurants sometimes, yes. It's not that I don't eat at all, but yeah. we can look at it from a Gita perspective. So anyway, the next
Okay, Prabhu.
slide. So what I call it as from R to R. Okay. What is this R? So initially, we like somebody who is not in any yogic path or not in any kind of spirituality or religion, also nothing. They are just reveling. They are just reveling in their, they are just enjoying on their material level. They are just enjoying the pleasures of the senses or pleasures of the mind or the intellect. They are just enjoying, reveling in that, right? So, and the verse for this is in Bhagavad Gita 244, Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya paharata chetasam, vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhauna na vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Okay, this is revel. And then what is the other extreme? So one extreme is you just enjoy. And then what is the other extreme of this? Anyone? Very simple.
Renounce.
Renounce, yes, renounce. So let me go back. Yeah. So that is restrain, right? And then this is the Gita verse. But then both these things are not enough. Because Gita says, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So I've had friends in my life who will first enjoy a lot, and they will do a lot, they will party hard and everything, and then when they are frustrated, they are like, okay, now sab moh maya hai, I'm detached, I want to be detached from all this. So this tug of war is always going on, right? But then what the Gita mentions is, this is where we come to the question of eating out and everything. The Gita mentions that you yes, revel, enjoyment, the taste for enjoyment is there, and at the same time we also want to renounce at some point, right? But the Gita uses a different term, which is also R, begins with R. Anybody has any guesses of what that term could be?
What is that term for, Prabhuji?
So it avoids the extreme of reveling, that is enjoying, and on one hand, and on the other hand, restraining or renouncing. It avoids the two extremes.
Reflect.
Sure, that needs reflection, what I'm about to say. But yeah, any other thoughts? Any other guesses?
Prabhu, I don't know anything that starts with R, but balance.
Yes,
English
that is
balance.
exactly the word. And the word for like the synonym that for balance is actually regulate. So
Yeah.
Gita says you neither completely drown yourself in enjoyment, nor you completely try to become detached, because both of these extremes won't work. So Gita says you regulate. And then the verse for this is Gita 6.17, Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So yes, we have taste for enjoyment. We need that. We have needs, and there is nothing wrong in having certain needs for the tongue, also for the body, right? But then we need to regulate that. We can't go unrestrained completely. Now, this regulation, within regulation itself, there are many levels. For example, Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction, he gives very strict interpretations of what does it mean to control the tongue. What does atyahar mean? He says that one should not eat in restaurants or sweet meat shops. One should eat only Krishna prasadam. And then even within that, he writes in one of, I think he writes this in the first verse itself, Vachovegam. He writes that he quotes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that even if we eat prasadam to satisfy our tongue, that is still not great. That is still not nice, because then although we are eating prasadam, sure, but we are falling prey to satisfying the whims of our tongue. So there are so many interpretations, there are so many levels of understanding this regulate. One regulate is don't eat, one regulate is okay. On our level, the regulate can be, yeah, okay, I like to eat as a foodie, I like to eat out, but then let me not at least go unrestrained. Let me not just go every day and eat out. Let's regulate that. Let's regulate in some way. Okay, I maybe once in a month starting with, or maybe, depending on the situation. Again, now bearing in mind that there are certain situations where you may have to do it, like maybe you're with family, or there are some extraneous situations, you're at work, there is nothing available, you may have to do it. But the idea of regulation, that no, it shouldn't be unrestrained, is what I'm getting at. And that is one level. Another level is, okay, I will eat tasty food, but let it be just prasadam. I might cook tasty food for to satisfy my tongue, to because I want to eat that tasty thing, fried rice or something. And then, but I will offer it to Krishna at least and then eat it. That is one. The highest level is where you can say that, okay, nothing except prasadam, plus don't eat prasadam also for the tongue's satisfaction. So there are just so many levels. And then we have to be honest with our own selves and see where we are at, and then not try to jump um, immaturely to a higher level, right? But anyway, this is not even the highest. Regulate is not even the highest. The more higher than that is rasa, the higher taste in Krishna consciousness, right? That is, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher he is fixed in consciousness. Param drishtva nivartate, vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah, rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Krishna says in the Gita that, yes, complete restraint is not going to work. Complete enjoyment and drowning ourselves into it is not going to work either. Both are impractical. The enjoyment will just get us entangled. On the other hand, immature restraint will just get us frustrated. On the other hand, we regulate. On a practicing devotee level, we regulate. We don't go to either extreme. And then higher than that, when we practice this regulation for years and years together. Now, again, this regulate is an important thing. Yukta. So one interpretation of the word yukta is balanced, or it's regulated. But another important interpretation of the word yukta is connection. So yukta is, again, it comes from the word yuj. Yuj is connection. Yoga also comes from the root word yuj. So yukta means connected. So when we regulate also, we can regulate with connection with Krishna. Yes, when we enjoy food, we can try to enjoy prasadam. And sure, when we restrain, we can try to restrain not for our own gratification, and not like for prestige, that yes, I was able to fast and everything, but for, I'm restraining this. Okay, I want to get out of my bodily consciousness to love Krishna. Going back to the initial point that we discussed about why do we practice bhakti at all, the ultimate aim of our practice of bhakti, and we discussed that the ultimate aim is to develop love for God, right? So then, yes, so we regulate, and that regulate, as I mentioned, it's with a higher intention, with an intention of developing love for Krishna. And when we regulate with that, that is when that is our intention of yuktahara vihar, yukta cheshtasya karmasu. That time, at some point, we will get rasa, or when we start tasting that higher taste, then we will not be that is natural renunciation. Then we'll not be pulled down by any of these enjoyments or restraints. um, yeah, so that is one thing. Any thoughts here? um, okay, moving on. This is my last slide. So ati ahar or yuktahar, how do you decide? Okay. So this is a small clip I heard from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. He's a genius, and what he said made so much sense. So we all have bodily needs, right? So now if we have to fulfill the needs of our body, we should listen to our body, not to our mind. And this goes back to the point that Suman Mataji mentioned, पेट भर गया लेकिन मन नहीं भरा. So your belly is satisfied, but your mind is not satisfied. So in order to satisfy the needs of the body, we have to listen to the body, not the mind. And there he mentions two things which I really loved. How do you decide? Okay, if I had to ask you, how do you decide if the craving I have is a need of the body, which is a genuine need, or is it a need of the mind? There is something on the chat to drop off now. Okay. Yes.
So Prabhuji, so the need of the body is, if you're getting hunger pangs
Okay.
and or if you're feeling dizzy and you are genuinely famished,
Yeah.
then it's clearly a need of the body.
Yeah.
The need of the mind is when you know that you have a meal waiting for you or some prasadam waiting for you, and you're coming from Patel Brothers and you see samosas there and you say, oh, should I get samosas too
Yeah.
for this? That becomes a need for the mind, because it's sometimes tricking you to relish
Correct.
some senses.
Yes. So, yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So there are two aspects that he mentioned, and this is really interesting. We can discuss about it for a few minutes if you all want. So, first is selectiveness. So he said one way to understand that whether a craving is a craving of the mind or the body is selectiveness. And what does this selectiveness mean? Selectiveness means I want to have that thing and I will not rest until I get it. Bus, I just want it. Come what may. I want that Manchurian and I want it at any cost. And I will travel miles and miles to eat it. I will just do anything required to do it, right? In an extreme way. And the second aspect is untimeliness. And this you all mentioned, right? I want this now, does not matter the time or day, and it does not matter whether I'm full or not. I just want this. That is untimeliness. So selectiveness and untimeliness. So we can evaluate, is what Chaitanya Charan Prabhu mentioned. We can evaluate when we have a craving, whether I'm being selective, whether, this is, there is nicely cooked food at home, but then I'm craving for something from outside. Or, so that one samosa, as you mentioned, Krishnan Prabhu, whether I'm selective in trying to get that, or and whether I'm full, or for that matter it's like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like, this was literally something we used to do crazy stuff during my masters, right? Everything is atiyahar. I feel during higher studies, when you're living with students of your age, nothing is yukta there, like literally nothing is yukta. But anyway, we would start cooking at 12 midnight. We would finish cooking by 1 a.m. And then we would offer and start eating at 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m. It used to be crazy. So that is so untimely. That is completely not yukta. So, so yeah, anyway, these two aspects we can see if, yeah.
Jagannath Prabhu in a way was Brahma Muhurat, right? He was offering at the Brahma Muhurat, so it was okay, I think.
That's what I told myself, the justification I gave. Yeah. And again, like if again sometimes, yeah, it we might crave something specifically also. But and then if yes, if there is opportunity, and then if it's a reasonable thing to do, we might go and get that thing that we selectively want. But then this is in general again. When we go into specifics, each individual case is different. But this is just in principle how we can understand whether it's ati ahar or yukta ahar. Anyway, any concluding thoughts? Any concluding thoughts or questions?
No, I wanna count
Ritu, please. Ritu, ಈಗ ಇದು ತುಂಬಿ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ ನಾವು ನೀ ಹೊರಗೆ ನಿಂದರು ಗನ್ ತುಂಬಿ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. Yes.
Jagannath Prabhu, I know the question is asked about the restaurant, whether we should eat or not.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another question that that's on my mind, and I have kind of answered myself. At the same time, I do have a question. I mean,
Yeah.
there are friends who invite you for gatherings. They're good friends, right? They're good people. What in their gatherings, they drink, they have a meat they offer, and you want to socialize, but if at the same time you're uncomfortable there, and
Yes.
it comes to a point that I don't want to go again. The relationship at stake, they get isolated from the society. So that I'm a good example of that. I went through that, and I try not to go to those gatherings anymore. But then you have the other side of it, that you're isolated.
Right.
Do anybody face that kind of a thing?
I faced that for sure. Yeah, but if anybody has any thoughts, please. Yeah, I mean, I feel if it's inevitable to go, then if you have to go, you have to go. You can't help it. But there also you can try to find some common ground. Sure, they eat meat. You may not want to eat there, but you may want to probably have like a lemonade or something, drink it, or yeah. So, or you could carry your own food. It will see there is an element of being the odd person out there.
Exactly.
But then, yeah, what can you do? It's just, and then what I feel is, um, initially I felt that, oh, okay, I'm being the odd man out. What would they think of me and things like that. But in my experience, it has been the case that most of the time, again, not every time, but most of the time, they will understand and they will respect your decision. They will respect the fact that you're following a path and things like that, and they will respect that, and they will let you be. It will not affect the relationship. And then again, like another strong argument is, if your choices are affecting the relationship for them, then you might have to reevaluate that itself. This is again a very strong understanding. Like you have to evaluate the relationship itself. But then it usually doesn't come to that. It rarely comes to that. But then most of the times, especially if that person is really close to us, they have known us for many years and we have formed a rapport with them, then especially such people, they will understand. They will understand that, okay, you're trying to follow a path and your choices are to be respected. So
that's true, actually. When they're close friends, of course they understand. Actually, the whole group of close friends in New Jersey, they know that when we are coming, someone doesn't eat onion and garlic. They especially make food without onion and garlic. But it's other people, those are not very close. But anyway, I mean, by now I have settled into that. But I did go through all of that. I just want to share.
yeah, no, it's a very practical thing. Thanks for sharing.
Same thing at the workplace also. When you travel business, it's they learn that But then in the beginning, it's a little bit of, okay, you're odd person, only person who is. So, but over the period of time, they understand.
True, true. Yeah. Yeah, you have to keep that rapport going at the same time. You have your own ethical choices that you've made. So it's a tricky balance sometimes, but
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I've gone through the same things, over the last 7, 8 years, and and there are some cases where you have choices, and there are some cases where the choices become very difficult. Where it's when sometimes it's when it's close family. Krishna puts us in connection with people. So if a close family person is doesn't adhere to something, then you have to um, you know you cannot break a relationship, if it's, particularly if it's a relative or something like that. So those are relationships that were formed well before us. Friends, of course, are relationships that we have formed. The one experience that I do have is that if you are patient with the circumstance, now I may, the next thing that I'll say will sound like some advice, but it's actually not advice. We have to also be careful. Um, let me put it this way. So people are spiritual in different forms, and 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 there are certain principles that we have chosen to adhere to, and those are principles that we have chosen to adhere to because of some reading that we have done, but others have not yet been exposed to those principles. And so it is, it's not, it's not fair on our part to judge them in any way. And at the same time, it is also not fair on our part to deny them our association because of some standards that we have kept for ourselves.
yeah.
So it's a very fine line between. Yeah, that's all I had to say, Prabhuji.
No, that's a very good point, Prabhu. Yeah, we shouldn't be judgmental. Oh, these are fallen people. Oh, eating meat eaters. How can this be? I'm such a fallen person. I'm associating with meat eaters and everything. Yeah, labeling somebody like that is not at all healthy for our own consciousness also. And yeah, everyone is on their spiritual journey in one form or the other. And yeah, we make this discernment, we do this discrimination more from a perspective of protecting our own consciousness rather than judging others' practices or others' externals. So
Right. I don't think Suman Mataji ever mentioned, she didn't. I don't think she means that. I
yeah,
don't think there is any judgment in you, Sumanji. The,
No, yeah, that's
yeah, but the reason I was trying to make this comment is because this happened to me where there is a friend of mine who used to eat onion and garlic, and I would always avoid onion and garlic, and the families are pretty close. And after a few years, after 3 or 4 years after Satya and I had left onion and garlic, through some other means, through completely unconnected means, he's figured out that onion and garlic is not good for his spiritual progress, and he's now quit the same thing. So there was no influence at all. I've never talked to him about it, but but he's completely changed all by himself, and on a completely different path. He doesn't know anything about ISKCON. He's a complete Advaita follower, but it doesn't matter. He's now he's now doesn't eat onion and garlic, and then now when we have dinner together, it's much easier because we both have the same challenges.
Right, Krishna Prabhu. It's not about judgment. I don't try not to do that ever since I've exposed to the bhakti. But it's a comfort level. If it's people are drinking and eating meat around me, I see animals, live animals. That's is my own comfort level that but you're right. I mean, you can't avoid it certain places, especially at workplace. Because when you go to the business travels and people eat and you're sitting next to them, you learn to tolerate. So not judgmental. I don't tend to do that. I'm not judging people, but on being comfortable yourself. Yeah, but and in the beginning you go through, but then we learn to kind of tolerate.
Papa, blow it and roll it.
Yeah.
There is one more thing I want to share. I've shared this before. There is an actor who came in this famous Korean TV show. He's a Hare Krishna devotee. I forget the name of the TV show now. It's a very, very popular show. 4 or 5 years ago, it was extremely popular. There was a big craze about it. So he's a Hare Krishna devotee who came in that show. He's an actor, and he's come in a few movies. And one thing that he was saying was he was sitting next to another famous actor, and I think either by chance or something, he mentioned that he doesn't drink and he doesn't eat meat, and then they held it against him in that acting community, and so one of the things that he said, when this was I think it was a Namras podcast. One of the things that he said was, we have to be very sensitive so that people don't feel that we are holier than them. Even unknowingly, if people feel that we are that we are we are showing that we are holier than them, then it might it will create some resentment in them, and they will hold it not only against us, but they will hold it against the sattvic principles too. And so at that point, resonated with me a lot. And when I was reading the Bhagavad Gita after that, immediately after that, I saw this verse, Anudvegam Karam Vakyam. Anudvegam is not to agitate somebody's mind. So that became an important principle. So I just I always reflect on this actor person's experience that he had.
It's a great point. It's a wonderful point. Actually, these sessions do help. There were other qualities, seeing Paramatma in everybody. So in the beginning, yes, I went through ignorance phase. Then learning from these classes, learning from listening to the Vaishnavas, seeing Paramatma in everybody. So you try to do that. Not always it happens, but once the thought comes, anything that's not appropriate, then immediate thought is that there is a Paramatma in them. So just look at them, not the externals. So it does help. That's why association, thank you, Jagannath, for providing this. This association does help. Listening to that, don't look at externals, look at internal. So we try to do that. It's a good point. Actually, the discussion is really great. It really helps. We can't hear you, Jagannath Prabhu.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I just said thank you. Happy to serve you, and it's a collective effort. Everybody comes and speaks, and it nourishes everyone. So definitely, it's a nice thing. But yeah, let's wrap it up here, dear devotees. Thank you for joining, and we will meet again next Tuesday for the next quality, which is pramatta, apramatta, that the devotee is not influenced by the material energy. So with that, let's wrap it up. Good night. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की
Vrinda
जय।
ki
श्रील
jai.
प्रभुपाद की जय।
His Grace Jagannath Gopal Prabhu ki jai. Wonderful class, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.